Minnesota Vikings could and should be in the market for the quarterback of the future, but in the likelihood that they strike out on Trevor Lawrence and Trey Lance and Justin Fields and Zach Wilson, and also if they punt on the second tier coming up quarterbacks of, say, Mac Jones of Alabama, Kyle Trask of Florida, addressing the trenches early on because it all starts up front, and then middle rounds taking a chance at a strong-armed, uber-athletic quarterback coming out of the University of Cincinnati, Desmond Ridder. That's right. Let's talk about him today. So, background. 6'4", 215, redshirt junior, turns 22 years young in December, former three-star recruit from Louisville, Kentucky. Now, his recruiting is interesting because it didn't really look like a lot of teams were in on him, but he was a big part of Luke Fickell's first recruiting class in Cincinnati 2017. And then he redshirted his freshman year. 2018 as a redshirt freshman, started 11 games for the Bearcats and put the bang thing on the AAC. 2,245 yards passing, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks. Also ran for 572 and 5 tutties. Was the American Athletic Conference a Rookie of the Year. Also led the Bearcats to an 11-2 record. And he was hurt in the bowl game against Virginia Tech in the first quarter. Didn't finish the game, but still they finished 24th in the polls. Nice little start for Fickell and company in the Queen City. 2019. Redshirt sophomore, 2,164 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks. That 2-to-1 ratio, less than ideal. 650 yards rushing, 5 touchdowns. Bearcats win 11-3. They won the inaugural AAC championship game, as well as they beat down Boston College, BC, 38-6 in the Birmingham Bowl. Desmond was game MVP when he ran for 100 yards plus, as well as 3 touchdowns. No big deal. Just no big deal, right? 2020, redshirt junior. All right, so this is when Desmond Ridder first started getting on the the draft watch list, right? So he had that big season 2019, had built on that his freshman year in 2018. Is like, all right, so redshirt junior year. 2020, weird-ass offseason, but it's whatever. Desmond Ridder, maybe he'll vault himself up into the first, second-round conversation. But so far, the results certainly do speak for themselves. 1,483 yards passing, 66.7% completion percentage, 153.4 quarterback rating, 84.6 QBR, 469 yards rushing, nice, as well as 9 touchdowns. And this Friday, just handled East Carolina, 327 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 75 yards rushing, and a touchdown on the ground as well. Bearcats right now, 7-0, number 7 in the country, should hold steady as there wasn't a lot of action in the top 10. But yeah, Cincinnati is looking good, and also could potentially play themselves into a nice little bowl game, which would be huge for the program, huge for Luke Fickell, the head coach, as well as, of course, Desmond Ridder himself. So, pros. He does have elite arm talent. Like, it really is effortless. The deep outs, the posts, the corners, outside the numbers throws. Also, weird thing about Cincinnati is that they seem to play a lot of night games. And also, that part of the country this time of year, the weather is not the best. But I think it does scale up well because, he does have a big arm. He does have the size. And if he ends up playing in a cold weather city outdoors or in a conference like the AFC North or the NFC North when you're outdoors against your rivals, his arm strength does cut through the wind, does cut through bad weather. You like to see that. Also, mechanics. A big reason why he does have elite arm talent is because his mechanics have gotten a lot better. So over the last 3 years, they've become very sound. Now, they still lapse for sure. And we'll get into consistency in a second. But, credit him and Bearcats offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach Gino Guidugli, former Bearcat himself. The footwork is really tight. So they're operating in shotgun for the majority of the time, if not all the time. But 3, 5, 7-step drops on rhythm. Crow hop on deep balls. It looks good every single time. It is like a cut and paste job. You do like to see that. It's really pretty and it is consistent. Accuracy on NFL throws. So the mechanics as well as the arm do lead to flashes of absolute elite accuracy. He can put it in through a tight window. And also there's some timing route elements to the Bearcats offense. Some pro concepts are interlaced in there, although it is still primarily a spread option attack. And Ridder can throw guys open for sure. But it comes and goes, as evidenced by his comparatively low completion percentage. He doesn't throw for a ton of yards every single game, but also that could be a testament to how Luke Fickell wants to operate that offense, as well as Desmond Ridder's prowess on the ground as well. Plus, it just gets into the dynamic athlete effect as well, because this is the gravy part of it. So like we said, 469 and 9 on the ground this season. He has 6 career 100-yard rushing games, including a $179 and 3 against SMU this year. And he is a long strider. Once he gets to the open field, it also doesn't look like he's running that fast, but he is. Like, he'll probably clock in about 4.6. But if Ridder was strictly a pocket quarterback and you took away the rushing ability, he would still be in the mid-round conversation. So, he would be a project for sure. But that's a testament to how highly he is as a passer. But the mobility is an absolute bonus. Like, there's also a lot of read option, a lot of RPO concepts in the Cincinnati offense. And plus, we talk about that trickling up to the NFL level because that's the type of talent that you do have, and it's dangerous. And having a quarterback that's had a ton of reps in that style of offense will certainly help. Also, he is big enough to run power up the middle. They use him in a lot of short yardage situations, as well as with that 4.6 plus speed, being elusive on the edge for sure. Also off script, some of his best plays are when plays break down, and he's just playing schoolyard football back there, and that's something that you love to see. It is shades of like early career Ben Roethlisberger, but just think of Big Ben, back at Miami at Ohio, ran a 4.6, right? Also, throw in the fact that he's a 3-year starter, started 31 games for the Bearcats over 3 years and counting, plus that leadership and growth as Luke Fickell's program has ascended. Like, if Fickell stays at Cincinnati and develops it into a top-tier program, like Desmond Ridder will be the George Washington of that story, because he's the one who really kickstarted that program. Also, just absolutely mature and humble as a kid. He's all academic team, which you love to see. Plus, he's been engaged to his high school sweetheart, and they're expecting a baby girl next year, so that's awesome. Congratulations to them. Because sometimes with these college kids coming in, you do worry about maturity, especially at that quarterback position. That's definitely not going to be an issue with Desmond Ridder. So a couple cons, you get into consistency. Like, he'll make some first round level plays, and then sometimes he'll hang on to the ball too long, or he'll try to make a play, he'll make a mistake, as evidenced by 6 picks on the season, as well as his 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio as a sophomore. Also, he's got 3 games this season under 62% completion percentage, which in a college style offense, when there's a lot of wide open windows, and also, when he does make mistakes, it's usually when sloppy footwork comes in, mechanics go awry, but there just needs to be a reset there. Also, can be a little bit gunslinger at times, where I kind of like that. I do kind of like when quarterbacks are cocksure enough to think that they can make a play, but also they have to learn to be able to control it. Also, there's a handful of games where he's thrown for like 100 yards, about 150 yards. It completes around 60% of his passes. That runs for 100, which is absolutely fine in college. I mean, it'll get you the W for sure, but it's tough to have consistent success with that in the NFL, as Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are finding out this year. But also, the thing about him holding on the ball, it isn't that he doesn't sense pressure. I think that he does relatively well, but also it is more him stubbornly just trying to hang on and trying to make a play, which I respect to a degree, but you have to. He has to realize when he's doing that, and either take the underneath route. You can't go broke taking a profit, or throw away and live to fight another day. But just trying to hang on, trying to take on bodies in the pocket, trying to take on pressure, then maybe force a throw. Less than ideal. Also, you throw in level of competition as well. So similar problem with Zach Wilson, Trey Lance is that level of comp, and the American Conference is okay, certainly rising up, Central Florida, SMU, and whatnot. But Ridder has never beaten a top 10 ranked opponent, and the AAC is solid, but since he's number 7 in the country right now, so like we talked about earlier, them getting in a big-time bowl game would be absolutely huge for Desmond Ridder's draft stock. Get him into a New Year's 6 bowl game, say Ridder and Cincinnati versus Georgia in the Peach Bowl. With a ton of NFL caliber talent on that Georgia defense, especially in the secondary. I mean, that could really help his draft stock. Plus, if he performs well in that game, maybe he shoots him up a round or two, right? And also, the whole college offense thing, like it's like we talked about with Trask and Trey Lance and Zach Wilson to a degree. The spread option, even though it is starting to become more and more of an NFL passing concept, because how often are you going to find like an I formation or pro set, and then you're just running the West Coast offense in college? Yeah, Not likely, right? But with the Bearcats, a lot of RPOs, a lot of wide receivers being schemed open by fakes, and also they primarily work shotgun. So he will have to get some under the center experience, and also as good as his current footwork is, I'm sure it could scale to under center because that footwork is different than shotgun. But also, Ridder does not have a ton of scanning the field, tertiary read experience. It is usually 1-2 boom, 1-2 run, 1-2 etc. Right? Also, so he's having a phenomenal 2020 season, but also. A knock against him is that he hasn't really taken the leap. So his accuracy has improved, but consistency is still an issue. But he's still kind of the same guy as he was 2 years ago when he was a redshirt freshman starting in 2018. Big time arm strength, one of the best athletes in college football at the quarterback position, and he will make some big time throws, but the consistency just is not there. Now, it certainly is amped up this year as the Bearcats are 7-0 and they're taking it to the AAC. I think they'll have a phenomenal bowl game. I think Ridder is improved to a degree, but he hasn't made that leap quite yet. So like we said, I think he'll likely be in the mid-round conversation, maybe late day 2, early day 3. I think that this being a super deep quarterback class works against him in that department. And I think that there will be a lot of questions. A lot of the cons we brought up, the inconsistency, the level of competition, the fact that he hasn't really made the leap quite yet. And frankly, there will be, quote-unquote, safer options in the draft, the more traditional options, I guess, in the draft that teams could go with. And, the Lamar Jackson comps will be inevitable. I think a better one is actually Josh Allen, where you have a big body quarterback who's athletic, has got a big arm, but also there's questions about accuracy and consistency. And frankly, I do think that Desmond Ridder is a more accurate passer coming out of college than Josh Allen was at Wyoming, also more consistent, and also, since he played better competition than Wyoming did back in the day. But also, Josh Allen quite possibly was the most polarizing draft prospect in NFL history. Some draftniks had him as a top 10 pick. Some had him, day 3, but he ended up going 7 to the Bills. And you've seen it this year as a microcosm of Josh Allen experience, where he'll play at MVP level some games, he'll completely disappear and be garbage other games. So he'll be up and down. And I think Ridder certainly could develop into a better prospect overall than Josh Allen. It may take some time. I think that if the Vikings somehow, some way decide to roll with Kirk Cousins for 2 more years, oh boy, I think Ridder sitting for a year or 2, getting fully immersed in the NFL experience, potentially getting into more of a West Coast offense scheme as well as learning that footwork from under center. I think that would greatly benefit him. Plus, I could survive through 2 more years of Kirk if Desmond was sitting on the bench just waiting in the wings, just every single day getting better and better in practice, absorbing all the knowledge that Kubiak is dropping on him, and just having hope, just having another option on that bench as opposed to Sean friggin' Mannion or a UDFA or a 7th-round pick would make a lot of sense. So I think if the Vikings do go a different direction, they pad up that offensive line, they get a penetrating 3-tech, maybe they get some safety help earlier on in the draft, and then they circle around, maybe they get back into the bottom end of round 2. I think that's probably the top end of Desmond Ridder right now. Or since the Vikings have 2 picks in the 3rd, 3 picks in the 4th, as well as they're pending on that comp pick of Trey Waynes, using one of those to secure Desmond Ridder, have him sit for a year or 2, and then see what happens. I think that would be a decent plan of action for the Vikings if they do miss out on those top-tier quarterbacks. But your thoughts, Desmond Ridder, the pride of the University of Cincinnati? Let us know in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support that work? Post on the Venmo. But until next time, Skol, production value.